Welcome to our September virtual user group. I am Shay Bagwell, and with me today I have Steve DeWitt from our product management team. And we are going to be talking to you all about getting your data ready for the future from Omni-Gen to IBI data intelligence. So Steve's got a great presentation lined up for you today and some exciting information to share. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. If you, during Steve's presentation, if you guys have any questions for him, please utilize the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and Steve will make sure that he answers all of those questions for you guys. The session will be recorded, so you will receive a copy of the recording post-event along with a link to the survey, which will also pop up at the end of the event as well, if you could take a moment and fill that out for us. So with that, we'll get started. I have a couple of marketing items to share with you guys. Let me share my screen real quick. I'd love to go through some of these with y'all. All right, let me move this over here so I can see what I'm talking about. Go to slideshow mode. All right, here we go. So as I mentioned today, we are talking about Omni-Gen to IBI data intelligence. But also want to remind you guys about our IBI.com. If you have not been out to the new website, please make sure that you give it a visit every now and then. Check out any new things that may be out there. We keep it updated with new blogs, customer stories. All of the events that are going on with IBI, whether virtual or in person, are posted out on the website. You also can access the IBI support out from the website. You can access the community. You can access the education platform, as well as the e-delivery site. So a lot of really great resources that are out on the website. As I mentioned, the support portal, if you guys are looking for some help, this is where you could submit your tickets to support. You also are able to access the product downloads here, get new product notifications. And there's just a bunch of other really good, useful links that are available to you guys. So I just don't want you to miss out on these important resources. As I mentioned, all of the IBI events, current and upcoming, are posted out on the website as well. Here you can sign up for virtual user groups, Focus Fridays, other various webinars that we might be hosting, as well as any of our in-person events. We have the Golden Summit coming up, which I'll talk about here in just a second. And then on the flip side of all of that, if you are not able to catch one of our virtual webinars, or if you would like to just go back and rewatch something, refresh your memory, you can find all of the recordings under the on-demand section. So after each webinar, we do post those out on the website and our YouTube channel so that you are able to go back and reference those. So as I mentioned, our IBI Golden Summit, this is our big event for this year, 50 years of innovation, 50 years of IBI. Hard to believe we have been around that long. We hope for a great, successful 50 more. But we have our exciting in-person event happening less than a month away, October 14th in New York. There are still some seats open. If you guys are interested in attending, we really encourage you to sign up. We have a special keynote speaker. Howard Dresner is going to be joining us and speaking during Summit. The registration, again, like I said, is still open. The agenda is live. You are able to check that out. If you do check out the agenda and you're like, hey, this looks really cool, but I really also want to see something on X, Y, or Z. We are offering a choose your own session where you can request a private session with one of our experts on a topic of your choice. So if that is something of interest, please let us know, fill out the form. And of course, we have time in our expert room, so we'll have a lot of our IBI experts on hand for you to have training or sit down one-on-one with those folks. A lot of networking opportunities and just a great way to celebrate 50 years with IBI. So like I said, if you haven't registered, if you're able to attend, we'd love to have you. It's an exciting event, exciting milestone for IBI. The IBI community, again, another great resource out there available to you as a customer. If you have not joined the community, highly encourage you to do so. This is the new community. Well, I say new, it's not really new anymore, but it's new from the past when we were part of TIBCO. So now this is solely an IBI only community. with all of our experts and all of our products and conversations going on. We have a lot of articles out there written by our experts in the product field. So a lot of great kind of mini training and just kind of did you know type of articles. A lot of great conversations going on with customers. You guys are learning a lot from each other. So we have the thread, the communication thread out there. Also, any big announcements going on with IBI, we post out there as well. So if you're not a part of the community, we'd love to have you. It's free to sign up. So you'll just head out there to ibi.com or community.ibi.com and sign up to be a part of it. I just want to remind you guys, we did launch our education platform earlier this year. We did a webinar on it back in May. So if you guys are curious, you know, what all it entails, what it looks like, you are able to reference back that webinar. But we do have the training available. So if you'd like to get involved or if you don't know about this yet, reach out to us, let us know. We can get you into the platform and get you some training on all of our products. We are updating and adding new courses every quarter. And there are courses ranging from a beginner level to a more seasoned expert level. So if you're not a part of it or you're interested in what other courses are available, please don't hesitate, reach out, and we'll get you in touch. If for anyone who is on social media, if you want to give us a follow, we'd love to have you. LinkedIn, X, and YouTube are our social channels. We do post a lot of updates on IBI. Again, like I said, any promotions, events going on, we will post out there, keep you guys in the know. And then our YouTube channel, we do also post the webinar recordings and other neat little like tidbits, how-to type videos out there. So give us a follow. And if you are not receiving any of our invites or updates or our monthly newsletter, please let me know. We do send out invites for all the webinars, for the in-person events. We do have a monthly newsletter that goes out. So if you are not seeing anything from us and you would like to be, please send me a note or send me something in chat to let me know. I can check and make sure that you are on our mailing list. That way you are able to stay updated on all things IBI. And the last two things I want to discuss on behalf of my colleague, Hannah Knox, these last two programs Hannah runs. The first one is the Web Focus Upgrade Program. This is designed to move to the Web Focus 9.3, seamlessly. The program is a proven method for success, whether you're on a current or legacy version of the platform. So there's a lot of great benefits to updating to 9.3. You got the long-term support release. You also get the modern responsive UI and enhanced security, new features like the machine learning, and a lot more. So if you guys are interested in the upgrade program, there is a link there to sign up, and Hannah will get you in touch with the correct team members where they can start reviewing what you have and how to make that upgrade as easy as possible for you. And then the second program that Hannah is running is our AI Bootcamp. So this is your opportunity to jumpstart your AI journey. The program offers expert sessions tailored to your specific objectives, and you'll learn from the real-world examples. There is a quick start course to guide you through the setup process for DSML. And the main goal is really for you to see the immediate impact by applying AI to your business challenges and getting those results faster. So if you guys are interested in what the AI journey looks like and you would like to join this AI bootcamp, it is available to you as a customer. So again, just click the link or reach out and we'll make sure that we get you in touch with the team. All right. If you guys need anything else, you know where to find us. I'm always available. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Happy to help you with anything that you may need. Our team is here to help you guys be successful. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Steve and let's get started with Steve's presentation.
Okay, great. Well, hi, everybody. And first of all, apologies to anyone who came because you saw my picture on the email and said, wow, look at the guy with the huge beard. He must be interesting. That was like my 2022 pandemic beard. And honestly, since then, I've become much less interesting. But Other than that, by way of introduction, I am the engineering manager for IBI Data Intelligence. I have been around IBI for not all of its 50 years of innovation, but close to half of that, and have had the opportunity to do some innovating and been really happy to work with great software and great people and great customers here. So what we are going to try to get into today is looking at IBI Data Intelligence, and in particular, how its data integration capability becomes a successor to Omni-Gen. There's a lot. One of the great things I experienced putting this demo together is realizing how much there is in IBI Data Intelligence and how I couldn't show you everything today. So I will point out where there's opportunities for further exploration. But we're going to try to stay focused on really a sort of master data scenario, working through what Omni-Gen used to do. So let me get my screen shared. But we just switched from Google Meet back to the world of Zoom, and the fact that it puts that nice green border around what you're sharing is so reassuring. That's a big plus. Okay. You'll see Lou DeTouris, our advanced technology strategist who works with the product's name here. Lou's not presenting today. He's attending, and an excellent resource. Give him a call if you have questions, or give me a call if you have questions. But let's get going. Oops. All right. Disclaimer, everything is disclaimed. And what I wanted to jump into first is a review of Omni-Gen. I don't know if everybody here is familiar with it. I saw some names that I know are experts who know as much or more than I do about it. But Omni was created to be a data integration and mastering platform with a special eye toward driving very fast, very efficient projects in a space that is notorious for its difficulty. Bringing together business users and developers in a data-first approach that could ideally take an MDM project from being a year or year and a half to something that could be done in 6 months or less. Our approach was always to begin with what our target is, the master record. What is it we want to see when this process is done? And then work our way through thinking about, well, where are we getting the data that is going to be fed into that master record? What kinds of cleansing does it need? How do we compare records and determine whether two records refer to the same entity in the world? And to think about remediation and how to take care of it, we had to think about what reference data is crucial to the organization to keep this data as high quality as possible. And put it all together and came up with the Omni model, which then allowed us to process batch jobs through the Omni server. And nice picture here of what MDM looks like. In this case, it's a healthcare story where we want to have the best possible view of patients in our healthcare system, but we have multiple source systems. The provider system, where all of our physicians and other healthcare providers are the payer, that is the insurance companies, typically in a healthcare situation, and the labs take records from all of those and transactional data from all of those and try to put together a really nice, complete view. You'll hear a lot today talking about the instance records, which is the best record for a given subject, patient in this case, in a source system, and how we try to recognize that they all refer to the same thing and build them into the golden record, the master. And here's something I'm going to be coming back to. Thinking of what the architecture was like. All right, we had really several databases. The ramp, the source, the instance, and the master being the typical journey of a record through Omni-Gen. Right, we process data by loading it to the ramp. Source data is copied from the ramp with some processing along the way. Instance data is cleansed as it comes from the source, and master data is matched and merged to create that golden record. And along the way, the process of mastering data was handled in the Omni server, where we would do change data identification, deal with reference data or codes, cleanse and standardize data, match and merge, and if something needs human interaction, generate tickets. But what services were doing that work of cleansing, matching, merging, and so on were housed in a third-party product, Atacama Data Quality Center or Data Quality Services. So we had an infinitely customizable environment in this fairly specialized tool that allowed us to build cleansing rules, build matching rules, build merging rules, and so forth in Atacama. Now, as you may have heard, we're taking it back. Those services that were once hosted in Atacama are going to be replaced with IBI's own product now. Story behind that is complicated and not important here today, but we're moving away from that. So what changes? First of all, in IBI Data Intelligence, which is a platform that includes various services, we have IBI Data Quality. And data quality is where we build out rules for cleansing and standardization. And you'll get to see some of that in a little bit. This is really here just to emphasize IBI Data Intelligence generally and IBI Data Quality in particular has been built out as a containerized product. We deploy it either as a Docker or Podman Compose or in Kubernetes. We like the flexibility that gives us, the update, the cloud support, and we find that it is truthfully doesn't require an AWS or an Azure. It runs well just about everywhere. So we can get into details of that later if when we talk about questions. But now we'll jump into the other important bit in data intelligence, entity resolution. That is, essentially, how do we dedupe the data in a fuzzy, statistically driven way where we can say that two records actually refer to the same thing, even though the records aren't identical in every way. So what we've done is replaced DQS with an ML-driven capacity based on the Python dedupe library. It is a key part of the IDI stack, and we have a process that you'll see in the demo where you build your project, train a model, and then expose that model through an API that then any service that we want to integrate with it can call. But in particular, for this example, our data integration successor to Omni-Gen can call at match time. Some notes. First of all, we've got some options on how to train that model, and you'll see that. And our performance has been really good. We've been impressed with how fast this is. So the reason we are using the underlying libraries that we are is that they're great. They work and they're fast. This is a slide full of statistical concepts that are involved in Python dedupe that I don't want to answer questions about, but they're true. It is good, smart stuff. So now, moving forward again. So how does Omni fit into this story? Intelligent data integration. Okay, thinking back to the diagram I showed you a little while ago, I hope that this one looks very, very familiar because it's just about the same, right? What's changed is that those DQS services are now built into data intelligence, but the repository structure isn't changing. An Omni data model, I should say, that was designed for legacy Omni is still going to work. The Omni server and its work order processing doesn't change. It's still fundamentally the same. But the points at which it calls out for cleansing and standardization and for matching are happening over here in IDI. All right, which brings us to the demo. So let me start out by logging into IBI Data Intelligence. And we find ourselves immediately in the data quality area. And I'm going to kind of munge things together a little bit today for demo purposes, but we're really going to be demonstrating a kind of design and analysis process that would be an important part of getting an Omni-MDM or an MDM project going. And then I'll show you how it all hooks together with our Omni server, or really data integration as we're calling it now. So my first job is to bring some data in so that we can begin to look at it, do some profiling, and figure out what kinds of cleansing it needs. And what I'm going to do, I have created a data source pointing off at the Omni-Gen database that I happen to have handy. And we're going to pull in some data from a route table. And in Omni, I have a customer model deployed. It's a fairly familiar sample for those of you who've run Omni before. I have the opportunity to enter some metadata, but for today, we'll just give it a name. And look, I got some data here. Now, to understand our data and think about what we need to do with it, we got to run a profile. So let's do that. I didn't take every record, every field in here. I took a selection of the ones I was most interested in, again, because I don't want to be here all the live long day. First order of business in creating a profile is to decide what fields we're interested in enough to profile. Now, a couple of decisions you make here. First of all, what's included in the profile? And second of all, I can set some expectations, right? Because one of the important things about profiling is that some things only matter in some cases. For example, I shouldn't really mark down data because it has missing values if it's okay for it to have missing values. So it's okay to have nulls in first and middle name, but maybe not in last name. And we'll say first names are medium importance, middle names are of low importance, and last names are of high importance to us. And I guess we'll say display is medium again. That's the idea. And the reason we're setting these expectations again is because the profile is going to assign some scores to the data. And how serious a problem is relative to how important that data is or what our expectations are for it. Uniqueness, another one. In this case, I don't think I have any data that will be unique. So we'll skip that. All right, and I got a profile. All right, some interesting stuff here. It looks like about half of our users have first, middle, last name, and about half have display name. Well, that's curious. We do know that this data came from more than one source. I know that. So maybe that accounts for it. We see that we have pretty good completeness on birth dates and social security numbers. That's good. In our case, we can drill in for more detail and see some closer in, shows us the masks that can be applied to the data. Frequency of values, since most of this data is not actually categorical, we don't see a lot until we get down to the credit score, where look, 7% of my people are A2s and 7% are A3s. And one other interesting thing I want to call your attention to. So you'll notice that we recognized that the social security number in our data was probably a social security number. Okay, we have some capability to do classification through what we call data classes. And in the case of social security number, we're doing that with a regular expression. No magic there. In other cases, we might be doing it with a lookup table. So credit rating got flagged as credit rating because all of the values happened to be in the lookup table of valid credit rating values that I have used to create this data class. Keen observers out there are probably, if you weren't muted, you'd be yelling, but why does it say first name as a credit rating? And I actually noticed that, and I went to my engineering team and I said, why is this? I don't get it. And somebody pointed out that there is very likely at least one or maybe many first names in my data where they're an initial, right? T.S. Eliot turned my data into a possibility that first and middle name are credit ratings. Well, I guess we don't have credit ratings that are T or S, but you get what I mean. One other thing to point out, the profile identifies duplicates, but it only identifies perfect duplicates. So this facility in the profiler is great. It allows me to deduplicate data when I actually have two rows that are copies of each other. It's different from the fuzzy deduplication process we're going to do when we get into setting up our entity resolution or our matching model. All right, moving on then. Let's try some cleansing rules on our data. First thing to notice is just as our classification identified the soc/sec num field as likely to be a social security number, because of that, IDI was able to suggest, hey, that cleanse USA SSN rule would be a good one for this. So we have given a suggestion already that if you've got a social security number, this is probably a good rule for it. Let's look at some other things we could be doing. This is our library of rules. There are about 40 built-in rules. It is very, very extensible. Rules are based on services, and in many cases, a built-in service can be extended by a user to create a new rule. It's also possible to create custom services and base rules on those. If that is something you want to know more about, join the IBI community. I have 2 articles about it that I'm very proud of, and if you read them and find a typo or something, tell me. In this case, I picked name, and I happen to know that there's a cleansed person name that I want, because that name data looked a little strange with person last name not populated half the time and display name populated half the time. Let's take that, and I'm going to map our first name, middle name, last name, and display name into this role. The other one I'm going to bother with here is adding something for date of birth. And I know that these are US dates, and I want them to come out looking like MDY. So we will cleanse the name, the date of birth, and the social security number. Let's run that. Yikes, I got a 13. Not a very good data quality score, but let's look and see if we can figure out what that means. Okay. For date of birth, it means that, first of all, we were losing some points because I think I said when I profiled that date of birth was required, and the fact that it's missing 6% of the time isn't so great. Another is that all the dates that weren't actually empty got reformatted. So our dates must not have been coming in MDY format as I expected them to be. So we fixed YMD dates to make them MDY. My names got 99% of them were touched somehow. And again, that goes with the discovery that half of them have display names and half of them have first and last names. So one or the other was affected. And social security numbers, they came out a little bit better, but in 45% of cases, we standardized. We did something to make them fit that social security number pattern of 3-2-4. 43% of them were valid, but I've been meaning to actually look at the code to find out what a blacklisted SSN is. That seems really bad, but 2% of them were that. All right, to give just a little more detailed look at the results. I'm going to open up our results. And notice that each rule generated its own results CSV. We'll talk a little bit about different options for integration time. But the reason we're treating it this way is that not every rule is one-to-one in our world. One input row generates one output result. So to help keep things straight, well, for example, right, we have rules that might tell you the outliers within a data set. What's the max and the min, and the median within, or something like that. So we might end up with just one row for an entire 1,000-row input data set. Likewise, there are rows that can return more than one, rows that can return more than one. So for the sake of analysis at this point, we just have one output per rule. Keep this open. I just found this plugin for VS Code, by the way, which makes me really happy. So I'm looking at the output from our name rule, and look, this bears out what I thought was the case. And all right, I already knew it was the case. But so I have this guy whose name was Kerbal Jason Finucci, and he didn't have a first, middle, or last name entered. So what our rule has done to standardize the data is left us with our display name of all 3 bits and have it parsed out first, middle, and last name. We see a lot of similar examples as we go through here. Look at one other just for fun. Here at the social security number. Did I not open the social security number? I thought I did. There it is. Oh, I see. I'm sorry, I got zoomed here. Okay, you can see I had a lot of input SSNs that didn't have dashes. We cleaned them up and put dashes in there. Another interesting thing is what this rule does is replaces with a default of a zeros SSN when it's not there, so that I don't have empty points in my data. And we got some cleanup out of that. All right, so that is as deep into the world of cleansing as we'll go for now. And let's jump over and think about matching or deduplication. Now, I have a project all ready to go when we get to the Omni server, but I have one that's about half created here that I wanted to just walk through. And a project begins with training data. Okay, you need representative data that shows the kinds of cases that you're going to find in the real world to train a model with. Now, in some cases, you're working on an entirely new case and you've got to train that model, and that's what I will show you. But in the case of an Omni-Gen customer, you have the best training data possible for your needs if you've been running Omni for any length of time, right? Because the Omni instance tables that have master IDs on records show which records should be labeled as being pairs of things. So this particular guy, when I look at his settings, this was created saying, does the training data contain labels? Well, yes. And what column reflects that labeling? It's the master ID. So we're training the model by saying, look at the records that were already shown as being instances of a single master and learn from that. When I go back in here, I actually was just writing documentation to, this one you'll notice does not have training labels, and I'll show you manual training. The predict threshold and the train recall, I just was writing the documentation on this. It's very interesting about how, first of all, how certain do we have to be before we say something is a match? And second of all, are we more comfortable with having occasional false positives but never missing a match? Or are we more comfortable with having occasional false negatives but sometimes missing a match? Is what recall does. And soon that doc will be published, and you can read it or we can talk more about it. Then I have to specify, what do I think is relevant to matching? All right, these are my blocking fields, really. And I can give a little bit of additional metadata here that tells the dupe a little something about how to weight them as it's training the model. In this case, I have strings, and date of birth is, of course, being treated as a date time. I acknowledge which things can be missing. And CRF is a conditional random field, and it creates a sort of extra boost in matching certainty. It's smarter. It looks at neighboring records as well as the record immediately in front of you as it's making its call on whether it's a match, but it does that at the cost of performance. So we use it kind of sparingly and only where it's most important. And I think social security numbers are probably the best way to identify two records that go together. So that's where we're going. And now I'd already started training on this one. What we require is that you go through and we will throw up pairs of records that dedupe has selected as being interesting, as either positive, yes, they match, or negative, no, they don't, and it wants your confirmation and expert insight into. We need a minimum of 20 to train the model matches and 10 non-matches. And so here, I got a rather tricky one. Quentin and Quentin, Trine and Trevine, born in the same year, but not on the same month. I'm going to say they're not a match. Here's Sharon Tile and Jean Tiley, who happen to have been born on the same day and have the same social security number. All right, that's a tricky one. Oh, let's call it a match. Maybe Jean has made some changes. All right, here's an obvious non-match. We'll just get one more in here. Okay. This seems to be a fairly obvious non-match. But Alfonso Donovan. All we have a transposition here in the date of 401 and 0104 with the same social security number, an obvious match. And now we'll just put this aside because you get the idea. And you'll also understand why training your model with data that you have selected from your Omni repository is perhaps less fun. Like you can while away the afternoon matching records, but a lot more efficient in most cases, and also going to be closer to the cases that you'd expect, since it was your matching model that created them in the first place, or your matching plan, I should say. Now, looking over at data integration, these screens should remind people a lot of the famous Omni controller console. They've had a little bit of a facelift to fit into IBI data intelligence, but here is a look at the deployed bundle. It is the customer bundle. From within, I have options that should be fairly familiar to Omni users. I have comparatively limited options on things like services. WSO2 and IDQ are really necessary to the operation of our data integration engine, but you can't turn them off and on from here. That's something that is part of the deployment and has to be controlled externally. The Omni server itself, however, you can restart from here because it's more integrated with what we're looking at. And of course, we've got work order processing, and we'll be back here in a minute. And what I want to do is process a batch of data, send it through the kinds of cleansing rules that I showed you in IBI data quality, master it using the sample customer project that we looked at a minute ago as a dedupe project. And then it will be merged using the simplest of our merge choices. And we can talk a little bit more about merging later, where I think we are prefacing the newest data first. So updated. So I've got these records preloaded into my ramp table, OG customer R. Omni people don't need to hear this, but if you're new to this, the ramp is really the main integration point here for running things through the engine. It is a table based on the model you have created for your master data, and it's where we can dump input and start batch jobs as we're ready to process them. And let me just confirm that I don't have anything in my instance table right now. And we're good. Now to kick off that first job, I'm going to put a record in the ramp control table that says to process the records with batch ID copy in the customer subject. And we'll race over here, and you can see that the bulk job has started. And we have entered the cleansing phase. So data has been sent over to IBI data quality. We've completed the matching phase. It has been sent through our dedupe model. By the way, this was about 2,000 records. So not an incredibly large batch, but not nothing. And it is merged and we are complete. Let's have a look at that data. Okay, I sorted this by master ID. And as we look at this, oh, I'm in the master table. That's why I'm not seeing it. I want to go to this guy. There. See that we matched Felsita Sunita Bowdler nicely, and that was an easy match because they seem to be virtually identical in the things we're comparing. But here is Garland Edwina Bork, and one of the data sources did not have a social security number for her. So our cleansing process put in the default value of zeros, and even though that did not match the other data source value, we said these guys were a match because their date of birth is the same and their name is the same. And we can probably find some other cases like that. And just for fun, of the, I think, 1,935 instance records, how many masters did we end up with? 1,287. So about 700 of them had duplicates that we detected here. All right, so taking you through where our cleansing rules come from, how we do our mastering or entity resolution or duplicate detection, call it what you will, and how we invoke that from an Omni work order to process a batch job. Now, I think we ought to talk for a bit about how you get to there from an Omni-Gen deployment today. All right, first of all, cleansing. And there is not going to be a simple put it in the magic machine and your old DQS cleansing plans turn into IDI cleansing plans. But maybe that's an opportunity, right? The first thing we got to do is really understand what are our cleansing requirements? What do we really need to do? And what are we doing now? And do those things actually still line up? We know that for lots of folks, cleansing plans were put in place by professional services 10 years ago, and since then we try not to think about them. So maybe this is a good time for a refresh. Second, we think that it is a lot easier to work with cleansing rules in IDQ than it is in DQS, right? That's a fairly esoteric branch of knowledge. I know some of the people in the group today are experts in it, and that's fantastic. But I've always said I could not have all the DQS experts in the world over for dinner around the table, but I think I could have a cookout in the backyard, right? It's a specialized thing, and that expertise is fairly thin on the ground. If you need help understanding what your DQS plans look like, oops, I've gone forward, then talk to us and we can help to connect you with some experts there in DQS who can help to come up with a good explanation of what's there and how to move forward. Once we know, figure out what rules are actually needed to do your data cleansing. Are they already built into IDQ? A lot of times they are, right? The kinds of stuff I showed you today, cleansing dates, cleansing social security numbers, that's not weird. And we have accounted for that. Can they otherwise be built from existing services? For example, if you format your dates differently, right? I had a USA date rule that I used. In the UK, dates tend to go in a different order. Our date cleansing service can be parameterized to create a new rule that outputs dates in the format of your preference. So we can handle that. And when you can't do that, we're very extensible. Custom services can be created a lot of different ways. The way that we sort of privilege is by writing Python scripts with the service and the rules we need. And we allow you to directly upload a Python script that follows the right rules. And that can have any logic that you need in it. And we'll expose that as a service, and you can use it to create a rule. That's another whole demo for another day, but do check out the article I just put in the community if you're interested in that. Once you've got your rules, it's a matter of mapping data to rules. I don't want to trivialize this. Data cleansing is important and it's hard, but this should be a manageable task. And if you are having trouble, we will find someone to help you. All right, matching. As I mentioned, an Omni customer has a repository full of great training data. So we can train models based on your data. And then we're going to have to, as you did when you implemented matching rules in DQS, probably tinker with the parameters of that model a little bit, look at the results of what matched and what didn't match. Do they meet our expectations? And when we get there, we're in a good place. As I say up here, in our analysis working with sample Omni data, we find that our dedupe model results have been directly comparable to what came out of DQS. And in fact, where there were discrepancies, we think that those should have been resolved in favor of the ML model over DQS. A lot of times DQS match plans will be very, very deterministic about things like if the social security number doesn't match, it's just never a match. Whereas, as you saw in the example I created, when the name and the date of birth matched and the social security number was missing on one side, the model decided that could still be a match. So again, analysis is necessary. It takes some work, but that's where we get our matching from. Merging. All right, merging in Omni was another DQS service, which meant it was infinitely flexible based on what you could create in the DQS workbench. You could slice and dice those instance records any which way to create the golden record of your dreams. What we have found talking to a lot of our customers is that while some people have pretty specific needs, and we recognize that, and we are working to support it, a lot of people have very simple requirements for this. And so what we have now is, first of all, implementing a few very simple patterns that we think cover 80% of users' needs most of the time. And then we're working on an extension to that, where we'll be able to add plugins to handle more complicated cases. One that I can't show you today, but it's in the hopper, is a case like take date of birth from the CRM system, but social security number from the sales system or something like that, right? The best source per field type of merge is something that we're working on creating with a template that can be supplied, and the merge will happen based on that. Talking just briefly about release, IDI 2.0, which is what I've been showing you and talking about, is due to come out next month, October. Aiming for the middle of the month and hoping for that to really be true. But it will be coming out this fall. And from there, we expect to come out with new versions in 2026, in Q2 and Q4, continuing to improve and strengthen what we're showing here. Also, that will be responding to your inputs. If you're using this, We want to make it work for you. So as we learn, we will grow and grow together. So we'll unshare, come back here, and I think that brings us to Q&A. So if you have some questions, Shay will tell you what to do.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, guys, if you have questions, now's the time. Let's open it up and go ahead and submit those to Steve, and we'll get those answered for you guys. So we'll give that a minute or two. And just a couple of reminders while you guys are thinking of questions or typing your questions out. At the end of the webinar, a link will pop up for the survey if you wouldn't mind taking a minute or two of your time to fill that out for us, to give us some feedback on today's presentation. We also have a 2026 Summit survey. If you guys have not filled that out yet, we'd love to get your feedback regarding planning for 2026 for our Summit event. I know a lot of people have requested a multi-day event. So the more of you who come together and request that, the more likely that we can make it happen. So please fill that out for us as well. All right, any questions coming in?
Oh, there's the Q&A button.
You just stunned them
So I
with
said we were
information.
off Zoom for a long time, and now we're back. Well, I hope that means I answered all your questions. If not, please come back around, and your questions will find me. And yeah, thank you very much for attending. And if you're in my time zone, it's just about time for lunch.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Steve, for presenting today. We appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Also, a reminder, there will not be a Focus Friday or a virtual user group next month in October because of Summit going on. So we will see you back in November. So just wanted to put that reminder.
Shrikant actually just came up with a question.
Okay.
I would say right now, our focus is on existing customers. The design time modeling piece that Omni had is not ready to go. So new work is harder. But we do intend to extend this to new customers as it rolls out. And I should say that is specifically in terms of the Omni data integration kinds of feature, the master database. A brand new customer could come in and do great things with cleansing and deduplication, and all of those IDI capacities are there. And we could work with you on a mastering project if that was something you're interested in. So there's my answer. All right.
All right. All right, guys, if there's nothing else, we'll give you some time back to your day. Again, thank you for joining us. And as I mentioned, there will not be one next month, but we will see you guys in November. So everyone take care.
All right. Bye, everybody.